Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. You know, in this game, you don't just play to participate, you play to dominate, to leave a mark so deep that time itself remembers you. There was a time when stepping onto that pitch in white didn't just mean representing a club. It meant carrying the expectations of millions and still demanding more from yourself. I'm talking about goals that didn't just win matches, they defined eras. Headers like missiles, free kicks like daggers, and celebrations that told the world, I'm not finished. Every time the pressure rose, every time the world watched with doubt in their eyes, the answer was given loud, clear, and ruthless. People always ask about numbers. They want to talk about goals, stats, records. And I understand that, because when you do something that no one else has done, people want to know how, why, when. But let me tell you the truth behind all of it. It wasn't just about scoring goals. It was about dominating the game with precision, consistency, and hunger. Every single match, every single minute, the mission was the same. To put the ball in the back of the net and do it again, and again, until there was no argument, no debate, just facts. Scoring goals is not just a skill, it's an addiction. It's waking up and thinking about the next one, even before the last one is celebrated. It's training your body, your mind, your instincts to see chances where others see nothing. That's how you end up with a goal per game ratio. One season, not two. Over 9 years, against the best defenders in the world, in the most watched games, under the heaviest lights. That's what it takes. Every goal had a purpose. Every goal carried weight. It wasn't about padding stats. It was about impact, about changing the course of games, about leading from the front. People forget that pressure exists in every single match when you're expected to score. They forget that opponents prepare their entire game to stop you. Double marking, triple marking, it didn't matter. The mindset was always to break through. If one way was closed, find another. Long range, take it, header, attack it, penalty, bury it, left foot, right foot, chest, shoulder. Every part of the body trained to deliver. Because in that white shirt, failure is not an option. You don't get praised for one great game. You get remembered for being great every game. There were seasons where 50 goals wasn't enough. Think about that. Scoring more than most players do in a career in one season and still being hungry for more. That's the mentality. It's not arrogance, it's ambition. You set standards so high that even your best performances feel like just another step. It wasn't about breaking records anymore. It was about creating new ones that others would fear to even chase. And it's not just about how many goals. It's when you score them. The timing, the context, the importance, quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. That's when it matters. That's when legends are separated from good players. You score a hat trick when your team is down. You take responsibility when no one else wants to. You silence hostile stadiums with a single strike. That's what defines greatness. It's not volume. It's value. And the goals had value, massive value. Every goal had a different story. Some came from impossible angles. Some came from moments of genius. Others were the product of repetition, of movement trained 1,000 times in silence. So it would explode in front of millions. And let's be clear, it's not just about instinct. It's about calculation. Reading the game, knowing where the ball will drop before it does. Anticipation sharpened by obsession. And when the chance comes, there's no hesitation. Strike, celebrate, move again. And what people don't always see is the pain behind the goals. The nights when you score 2 but feel like you missed 3. The constant drive to be sharper, faster, stronger. That's why the goals kept coming. Season after season, different coaches, different teammates, different tactics, same result. Goals. You adapt, you evolve, but the hunger never changes. The demand from the fans, from the club, from yourself, it pushes you beyond limits. And when you look at the history of the club, the legends that wore that shirt before, you realize what kind of legacy you're building. But instead of pressure, it gives you fuel. You want to become the top scorer in history. Not for the name in the books, but for what it represents. Commitment, longevity, greatness. And to become that, you can't take days off. You can't settle for good when great is possible. You treat every match like a final, every goal like a trophy. You hear the crowd roar when the ball hits the net. That's not just noise. That's respect. That's emotion. That's years of work exploding into a single second. And you feel that connection because you're not just scoring for yourself. You're scoring for the team, for the fans, for history. And when you do it consistently, they remember, they sing your name, they wear your number, they wait for your moment, and you give it to them again and again, because that's what being a goal machine means. Relentless, reliable, ruthless. So when people ask how great the goal scoring was, they can look at the numbers, they can check the charts. But the truth, the real answer, it's in the feeling, the fear in defenders' eyes, the silence in enemy stadiums, the explosion of joy in the Bernabeu. That's how you know. That's how you measure greatness. Not in totals, but in the way the goals made the world stop and watch. That's how you measure greatness. Not in totals, but in the way the goals made the world stop and watch. But goals alone don't tell the full story. It's easy to shine when everything is smooth, when the pressure is low, when the match doesn't mean much. But what about the nights that decide everything? What about the games when a whole season is on the line, when millions are watching, hoping, doubting? That's when you see who's built for the moment. The big games, they don't scare you. Finals, semifinals, knockout rounds, that's where you breathe differently. That's where the heartbeat slows down while everyone else is panicking. You look around and see nerves in your teammates' eyes, fear in your opponent's body language. And that's when something switches inside. You know it's your time. You know the moment is waiting for you to take it. You can feel the tension when you walk into Camp Nou for an LCL Jilitzeko. You hear the whistles, the hate, the fire in the crowd. You know what's coming? The tackles, the pressure, the expectations, and you embrace it. Because that's what separates the elite from the ordinary. To walk into the lion's den and leave it in silence. To raise your hand after a goal and feel 90,000 people go quiet. That's power. That's mentality. Champions League nights, they're a different universe. Cold air, and them playing, knockout tension. That's where heroes are born and reputations either rise or crumble. Some players wait for the whistle. Others, they become the whistle. You make the first move. You score first. You press first. You take control. And when the game demands magic, you deliver it without blinking. Hat trick in a quarterfinal, no problem. 2 goals in stoppage time to turn the tie. It's done before anyone even sees it coming. Pressure never crushed you. It sharpened you. It brought out your most dangerous version. While others shrink under the lights, you become brighter. The bigger the stakes, the more clinical you get. You don't get overwhelmed by the stage. You own it. That's not luck, that's obsession, that's preparation. You play every game like it's the final, so when the actual final comes, it feels familiar. And when you lift the trophy after a night like that, not just because of one goal, but because you drove the entire team with your will, it feels right. Because the work led to the result. And the result came because you refused to disappear when it mattered. Legacy isn't built in easy wins, it's built in fire. And you walked through it more times than anyone can count. But none of that happens without the mindset behind it, because talent without mentality is nothing. You can be gifted, but if you're not hungry, you'll fade. Hunger, that's the secret. That's what made it possible to go from 30 goals to 40 to 50, to doing it again and again, not because someone asked you to, but because you demanded it from yourself. The training, the recovery, the discipline, it never stopped. Every season started like the first.
No comfort, no excuses.
Only targets, bigger targets, more responsibility. While others were satisfied, you were restless. While others enjoyed success, you were already thinking of the next game, the next goal, the next title. That's the difference. That's what builds a legacy. Not the moments when everyone claps for you, but the moments when no one is watching and you still push like everything depends on it. You study the game, you study your body, you study the opponents. You evolve. When they thought you were just speed, you added strength. When they thought you were just power, you added timing. When they tried to mark you with 2, you found space between 3. Every challenge became a new test, and every test was passed with obsession and focus on the critics. And they're always there. Saying it's luck, saying it's not sustainable, that maybe next season you won't keep up. But every time they spoke, the response was always louder. On the pitch, you don't argue with words, you argue with performances. You don't answer with interviews, you answer with hat tricks. Let the world talk, let them doubt. You just keep scoring, keep winning, keep rewriting history. That mentality, it's not something you turn on before a big game. It's something you live with every day. It's behind every sprint, every gym session, every minute of recovery. While others think about success, you prepare for it. You train your mind to be comfortable with discomfort, because that's the only way you stay at the top. That's how you lead, not with speeches, but with example. Not by demanding from others, but by demanding everything from yourself. This is what it means to compete, not to participate, but to conquer. Not to chase greatness, but to define it. Because if you don't have the mentality to go again and again, if you're not willing to do more than anyone else, then you're just another name. But when your mentality matches your ambition, then nothing, no opponent, no stadium, no moment can stop you. Because when you have that kind of mentality, the game becomes personal. It's not just about playing well. It's about proving something every single day. People only see the goals, the trophies, the applause. They don't see the war behind the scenes, the sacrifice, the rejection of comfort, the ruthless discipline it takes to reach that level and stay there. It starts from the first step into training, when others are laughing, joking, stretching half-heartedly. You're already zoned in. Every rep, every sprint, done like it's the last one of your career. No shortcuts, no good enough. If it wasn't perfect, it wasn't acceptable. You do that for years. Not weeks, years. That's how the mentality gets built. That's how you start turning pain into fuel and obsession into routine. You wake up and think about improvement. You go to sleep with it on your mind. Everything you eat, every decision you make is calculated to bring you closer to one goal. Be the best, not just for one season, not just for one golden boot, but every single time. The critics say it's impossible to maintain that drive, that eventually success will soften you. But that's the difference. The more you win, the more your hunger grows. It never ends. If you score today, you want to score twice tomorrow. If you break a record, you want to set a new one the next month. While others count trophies, you count days without progress. That's the standard. And when you carry that mindset, it spreads. The locker room feels it. The staff senses it. Opponents fear it. They know you're not coming to compete. You're coming to destroy. That's what makes the difference. Not just ability, but the mental refusal to accept average. You train until your weaknesses disappear. You work until your strengths become weapons. Even when you're on top of the world, you act like you're still chasing. There's no satisfaction in standing still. Every game is a new challenge, a new chance to outer yourself. And that's where greatness is forged. Not in talent alone, but in how far you're willing to push your limits. Over and over again, when no one else is watching, when others are content with being good, you're obsessed with being untouchable. And you know what? That's where the magic happens. When your body is tired, when your mind wants to stop, but something deep inside refuses, you tell yourself, not yet until the job is done, not until the stadium is standing in disbelief. That voice inside you becomes louder than any doubt, any pain, any fear. And it drives you relentlessly. You don't wait for motivation. You don't rely on mood. You wake up and do the work whether you feel like it or not. Because that's the price of greatness. Sacrifice, focus, fire. No distractions, no excuses. And it's not about showing the world once. It's about showing them every time. Over a decade, over hundreds of matches, over countless setbacks. When you have that mentality, you don't lose. You learn, you don't fail. You adapt. That's why every setback became fuel. Every criticism became noise. Every doubt became proof that you were still doing something most people couldn't understand. That's what built the legend, what kept the fire burning. But let's be real. It wasn't just fire. It was vision. Because you don't train like that, live like that, suffer like that for ordinary moments. You do it for the unforgettable ones. The moments when time stands still and the world holds its breath. The moments that get replayed forever. You know what I'm talking about. Those goals that didn't just win matches, they stunned the planet. There are goals that came from instinct, and then there are goals that came from another dimension. A ball flying in midair, back to goal, defender on your shoulder, and you jump, not to impress, not to try, to finish. And the stadium goes silent, then erupts, because they've just seen something that will live forever. Not luck, not chance. That's years of timing, Strength, flight, and boldness converging in 1 second. It's not about just scoring. It's about how you score. It's about leaving people speechless. Goals from distance that defy physics. Tight angles that shouldn't be possible. Headers that come with the force of a punch. Every goal a message. Every celebration a reminder. Not of who you are, but of what is possible when obsession meets execution. Because in the end, that's what football is about. Moments. The ones that make kids dream. The ones that inspire generations. And you believe for those, you train for those, you bleed for those. To make people believe. To make them feel something they've never felt before. To turn a game into art, into drama, into history. And when you create moments like that, it's not just fans who notice. It's not just media or sponsors or headlines. It's the other side. The ones trying to stop you. They know what's coming, and yet they can't stop it. They prepare for you for weeks. They study your movement, your finishes, your habits. They double up. They change systems. They shift formations just to slow you down. But none of it matters. You look them in the eye and you see it. The fear. Before the whistle even blows. You haven't touched the ball yet, but you've already controlled the game because your presence changes everything. Defenders play deeper. Midfielders hesitate. Goalkeepers position differently. Just by stepping onto the pitch, you've altered their plan. That's not intimidation, that's dominance. Earned through years of being the most dangerous threat on every field. You hear people talk about fear. They say defenders are brave. They say teams come without fear. But when they see you warming up, when they hear your name echo across the stadium, their hearts race. Not because of what might happen, but because of what they've seen happen too many times before. That cut inside. That shot from range. That explosion of speed. They know it can come at any second, and they know they can't stop it. They'll try everything, holding your shirt. Tactical fools. Whispering trash talk in your ear, it doesn't affect you. If anything, it confirms it. They're desperate. They can't handle it. And the moment they show weakness, it's over. One touch, one turn, one strike, the net moves, and the game changes. Because you didn't just score, you broke their spirit. That's the kind of impact that goes beyond goals. That's psychological warfare. And you've mastered it. It's not arrogance. It's truth. When you walk onto that pitch, you know exactly what you bring. It's not just speed or skill or power. It's expectation. It's fear. And not just from defenders. From entire stadiums. You've heard 80,000 voices go silent. You've heard away fans groan before the shot even leaves your foot. That's respect. That's influence. That's when you know you've become more than a player. You've become a problem. A problem no coach can solve. A puzzle no defense can figure out. And that reputation, it's not built overnight. It's built with pain, with showing up when you're tired, with scoring when everyone's counting on you, with delivering even when your legs are screaming. That consistency, that's what makes teams fear you. They know it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You've done it in every stadium, against every team, under every pressure. That's why they plan for you days in advance and still fail. They'll mark you tight, fool you hard, try to frustrate you. But when your mentality is stronger than their tactics, it doesn't matter. You stay focused. You smile. Because the more they try to stop you, the more you know you're winning, the more attention they give you, the more gaps open up elsewhere. You read it, you adapt. You become the creator, the decoy, the finisher, whatever the game demands. And when you score, you don't just celebrate, you make a statement, you look to the stands, to the sky, to the doubters, you let them know, it doesn't matter how many times you've done it before. You'll do it again and again, because this is what you were built for. You don't fear defenders. You feed off them, their tackles, their boosts, their frustration. It all becomes energy. You turn their resistance into rhythm. They might come with a plan, but they leave with regrets. You've seen the same pattern repeat over and over. The build-up, the fear, the resistance, the collapse. Because when someone keeps proving themselves over and over, there comes a point when even the strongest opponents walk to the pitch already defeated in the mind. And that's the true power. Not just to win, but to make winning look inevitable. It's more than speed, more than power. It's the ability to read defenders like open books. You know when they'll lunge, when they'll hesitate, when they'll turn their hips. And the moment they do, it's already too late. You've gone past them. You've made the run. The pass comes. One touch. Bang. Game over. And then you see it in their eyes, the disbelief, the frustration, the quiet admission that they couldn't stop it. No matter what they tried, you shake their hand. You give respect. But inside, this is what you were made to do. This is why they fear you. Not just for the goals, but for the inevitability, for the silence that follows the shot, for the echo of your name in places where they never wanted to hear it. That echo doesn't just come from the fans or the headline, it comes from what you did on nights that truly mattered, the finals, the deciders, the stages where careers are made or broken. That's where the weight of legacy truly lives, and only a few can carry it without breaking. You walk into those matches and everything feels different. The warm-up feels heavier, the stairs more intense, the air colder. But you don't flinch, you welcome it. While others feel pressure, you feel clarity. The mission becomes simpler. Win, score, lead, make history. That's what you were built for. Because in those moments, you're not playing for just 3 points. You're not playing for everything. For the badge, for the club, for the legacy that will be remembered long after boots are hung up. The world watches, waiting to see who steps forward. And every time, you know exactly what to do. You don't wait for the moment. You create it. Ball at your feet, the crowd holding their breath, and that tiny window of space, it's all you need. One step, one strike, one roar that shakes the stadium and sends a message to the world: big games belong to the bold. You've seen the faces of teammates change in those moments. Some freeze, some hope, but you demand it. You call for the ball when no one else wants it. You make the run when others hesitate. You take the shot when others look for the easy pass. That's not selfishness. That's responsibility. That's what leaders do. You carry the fear of others on your shoulders and turn it into confidence for everyone. You don't just want to play in finals. You want to dominate them. You want to be the difference. And when the whistle blows, you lock into a different gear. Every pass, every movement, every second becomes part of your plan. You sense the weak points, the fatigue in the defender, the nervous touch of the goalkeeper. And when the moment comes, you strike. Precise, ruthless, unstoppable. It's never just about scoring in these matches. It's about rising above the pressure. It's about handling the spotlight when it burns hottest. While others crumble under the weight of expectations, you thrive in it. You don't just survive the big nights. You redefine them. You turn finals into showcases, semifinals into statements, quarterfinals into warnings. And when the world doubts, that's when you shine brightest. You've walked into stadiums where nobody believed, where fans bowed, where pundits predicted failure, and you left with the match ball, the man of the match, the victory. That's not coincidence. That's preparation. That's obsession. That's the refusal to be ordinary. You've played in atmospheres where every touch is booed, where every move is challenged, but you block it all out. You become deaf to doubt and blind to fear, because the goal is all you see. That net, it becomes your destiny, and when the ball hits it, everything explodes. The silence turns into chaos. The pressure turns into power. The moment becomes yours. Those nights become chapters in a legacy, because people don't forget what you do in the biggest games. They don't remember who passed sideways. They remember who stood tall, who scored when it mattered, who lifted the trophy with sweat dripping and eyes full of fire. You live for that. The feeling of delivering when millions are watching, when history is waiting. And it's not about individual glory. It's about impact. It's about raising your teammates, inspiring belief, dragging everyone forward when the legs are heavy and the minds are tired. You've looked into your teammates' eyes before a final and told them, follow me. And then you delivered again and again, because you knew what was at stake. You knew that these matches decide more than silverware. They decide stories. The banners in the stands, the kids with your name on their shirts, the old fans who've waited decades for that one magical night. You carry all of them when you step onto that pitch. And you make sure they go home with memories that last forever. That's what these matches demand. That's what greatness requires. You can't fake it in the big games. You can't hide. Every weakness is exposed. Every doubt is punished. And that's where your preparation pays off. You don't just walk in those moments ready. You become the moment. because you've trained your whole life for it. When others breathe fear, you breathe calm. When others hesitate, you act. And after the dust settles, after the final whistle, after the trophy is lifted, you look back and know it wasn't luck. It was work. It was belief. It was the fire that never goes out. The big matches never scared you. They called you, they challenged you. And every time you answered, because legacy isn't built on one night, one title, one season. It's built on consistency. It's built on showing up when the body says no, when the noise outside is loud, when the spotlight shifts somewhere else and they think maybe your time has passed. That's when you rise again. Not because you have to prove anything, but because it's in your blood. You were never here for moments. You were here for eras. You never played for applause. You played for history, to leave something behind that time can't erase. And when you wear that white shirt, you feel it. The weight of expectation, of legacy, of the greats who came before you. Before you carry it with pride, not pressure. Because you knew the standard. You didn't want to meet it. You wanted to raise it. Every record that stood before you, you looked at it like a challenge. Every wall you treated like it was meant to be broken. But that's something you say, it's something you live. Day by day, goal by goal, season after season. You know the numbers, you know the heights, but behind every stat there's sacrifice. Behind every celebration there's sweat. You didn't become what you became by accident. You planned it. You obsessed over it. You worked for it long before anyone believed it was even possible. While others talked of potential, you delivered results. While others dreamed, you executed. You didn't ask for records. You demanded them of yourself. And when they came, you made them look normal. That's what made it special. Not just the goals, but the consistency of excellence. The expectation that you would deliver, and the fact that more often than not, you did. In leagues, in cup games, in Europe, it didn't matter. You showed up like the game was yours before it even began. And that kind of impact isn't just statistical, it's cultural. It changes how a club walks, how fans believe, how opponents plan. You become the symbol, the one everyone looks to in difficult moments. And you embrace it. You don't hide from the pressure. You grow stronger in it. Because deep down, you know that the game will remember, the fans will remember, not just what you did, but how you did it. There's a reason your name is etched into the fabric of that club. It's not just about the goals, though there were many. It's about how those goals came. The timing, the audacity, the emotion, they weren't just goals, they were declarations. Statements of intent, reminders of greatness. You didn't score to pad numbers. You scored to make a mark, to send a message, to light up nights that would live forever in memory. Every chant from the stands, every kid wearing the number on their back, every stadium rising when the ball hit the net, that was earned. Earned with your work, your will, your obsession. You didn't want to be remembered just as one of the best. You wanted to set a bar so high that it became the new standard. And that's exactly what happened. It wasn't just about playing well. It was about rewriting what was possible. What people thought one player could do in a season, in a career, in a rivalry. You didn't just compete. You shifted the entire landscape. And you did it with a mindset that never let up. You could have stopped after one title, one Ballon d'Or, one record. But that's not how you're built. Every achievement just made you hungrier. Every milestone became a stepping stone. And when people said, surely that's the peak, you laughed because you were already preparing for the next one. You led with your feet, with your heart, with your attitude, and that influence didn't stay on the pitch. It spilled into training, into the dressing room, into the culture. You made people around you better, not by words, but by example. They saw how you worked, how you recovered, how you refused to settle. And they followed. Because excellence is contagious when it's real. You could have gone anywhere. You could have chased comfort. But you chose to stay in the fire, to test yourself again and again against the best, to never settle. That's why the legacy is different. That's why the bond with that club, with that shirt, with that era, it's unbreakable. It was forged in goals, in sweat, in nights of thunder under the lights of the Bernabeu. This wasn't just a chapter. It was an era. And it wasn't written in ink. It was written in history. When people talk about greatness, they'll point to that period, that consistency, that fire, that man who walked into a team of champions and still stood out. who made records fall, defenders freeze, and fans believe. Because when you give everything, every single time, the game gives something back that lasts forever.